Hi, Tony Salzo. Welcome to Line. Another great show. I get the gift of spending more time with the lovely Nicole Casanova, from coming in from Boulder, talking about tech startups. She's an expert. She's a maven in this space in mentoring women in the technology world, CEOs that are trying to get this business off the ground. And we've been kind of going back and forth. And I want to talk about boxes. I want to talk, Nicole, about the boxes people stick themselves in, the barriers that they think that they have that they don't really have. They don't think they have enough money. They don't think they have the right team. They don't think they have the right idea. They don't think they have the right stuff to get it going. And you know, ultimately, you and I came back to is what they really don't have is they don't have the right why, right? If the why is great enough, the how will unveil itself. Talk to me about what that statement means to you.
Gosh, that's interesting, and that's really something that's been showing up personally for me, because I was focused on tech and startups for a really long time. I mean, online video in 2008. I've been in all these different arenas, working with different people. In December 2014, I decided from this point forward, I'm going to be working specifically with women CEOs that are in high growth scale. I believe that women, especially for running tech companies, you cannot argue with the speed of technology, and when there's dollars behind it, which by the way, we'll have 22 trillion in our hands by 2030, big deal. So as soon as I made that choice clear, it's completely different, because now I truly am purpose driven. You know, I loved being in tech, I love startups, all those things, but I have so many connections and organizations, and now I get to, you know, we have all sorts of cross marketing. There's ways I can leverage all of my network and kind of bring everyone together. So things shifted in a big way when I chose to shift my why.
Right. So moving your why created a how and a methodology that became so evident because you became clear on how to scale, right? On where to go and what the vision was. And I think part of that word is, you know, I always try to help, you know, we have, you know, similar backgrounds in trying to coach people. A lot of times what we do is that Patrick Lencioni's kind of getting naked, right? Just start trying to help the client focus on what's going to be better for them, and then figure out where the pay gate starts. But that whole getting clear, you know, so many people aren't spending time getting clear on where they want to go and why. And ultimately they don't even know why they even want to go there. And if you're going to do a startup, if you're going to go through the process of starting a business, I mean, let's just talk about it for a second. You work for a crazy person. They beat the hell out of you. They pay you like crap, right? They don't give you the affirmation that you need, you know, and I'm talking, of course, about ourselves, right? And if you're going to go through all that, you really have to create an abundant place to go. You really have to eliminate some of these lids that you put on your head if you're going to go through this. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, going through that struggle and some of the challenges that you do, you really need to get clear on why you're doing it.
Absolutely. Being an entrepreneur brings up every single upset, trigger, limiting belief, you name it. I mean, it is like the quickest path to enlightenment in many ways, because you will constantly be challenged. And how do you actually respond rather than react? But one of the things that you're talking about is also really interesting when somebody's heads down already in their startup, because being able to step back and be strategic about it, they're running a mile a minute, so that doesn't always happen. And being able to step back and look at even how are we monetizing this? Is this business model set up to support us? Am I running the business, or is it running me? So even being able to step back and look at, like, how can we create not just the highest margins with the least amount of resources. I'm all about ease and grace. But looking at, like, what's the true cost? You know, even if you've got millions of dollars and you're doing incredibly well, you might be on the road 90% of the time. Like, is that actually sustainable? So being able to step back and look at that as well. And you did talk about, you know, we were talking a little bit about how you've got these boxes around you and beliefs about, like, I can't be an entrepreneur. It's just easier to be. Being an employee also has its own risk. You know, we can go into all that. But being able to start as an entrepreneur now is completely different than it was 10 years ago. You've got access to so many resources, like Trello and Nimble. Like, there's just so many this technology you can use for like $20 a month that you couldn't even have access to before.
Right.
You know, everywhere. You can get something off the ground for nothing.
The barriers that we used to think exist, candidly don't exist. And you know, the whole mindset is what you're promoting and what you're trying to teach women and what you're representing. The mindset is so much more important than the skill set. You know, I mean, there's a great book out right now called The Hard Thing About Hard Things, and I've been promoting Horowitz's book to a T, because if you're going to be a CEO, you know, the best grade you're probably going to get is a C minus, because you're never going to be good at all the roles that you're forced to be good at in that thing. So if you accept that, and you realize that this need that you have to get your A, you might just have to let go of, because you're never going to be an A at all the things that it takes to be good at this. And you accept that it is a path of personal development, because you need to grow. The company will get no bigger than the people within it grow to be, right? And that's why what you do, building scaffolding around these high growth companies, the organization that you're bringing to light, the mastermind groups, the support system, you got to have scaffolding in order to grow tall. I mean, isn't that part of what you're helping people realize?
Absolutely. You know, what's interesting, in terms of being a CEO, you can't do all these things. I feel like there is one piece that anybody who's in a startup, running a startup, you name it, needs to get, and that's the whole idea of selling. And selling is such a trigger, like everything comes up around that. And I know, like, Tony, you totally get this. It's all about serving. And if we reframe that, it doesn't, like, you could be a new entrepreneur, you could be a woman entrepreneur, you could be a developer, it doesn't matter. But if you have to have something that's saleable. Yes, you have to have a product, and it can be beautiful. And if nobody's out there buying it, where are you? And even if you go raise money, it's like, now somebody is an ex-boss, they want to see a higher valuation. I don't care who you are, you need to focus on selling. That said, if we reframe it and we look at selling as serving, that I have this amazing gift for you on a silver platter, because I know exactly what supports you, completely different. And if I don't have that today, then maybe today's not the day that we partner. And I know, like, Tony, you live by that. Like, even in, like, since we've known each other, you've already supported me with, you know, a number of connections and resources. And, you know, you get that that's the way to grow relationships. At the end of the day, that's what business is. It's all about the relationships.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, you said it. To me, there's no line and there's no distinction between selling and serving. It is one and the same. You have to believe that you're the best at what you do in delivering your solution. So you have to beat on your craft every day to work at it, and you have to, you know, beat on the solution that you're becoming to whoever your target market is. But then you also got to fully commit to, you know, making and getting on the same side of the desk of the person you're asking for the money. If you're doing that, if all that's one and the same, you know, people will buy from you just because they believe that you're on their team and they trust you. And that's a whole different game, right? I mean, I wrote a blog about partnering versus vendoring. I think vendoring is dead. You know, you can't, it's never going to be a long-term relationship. You're never going to share data in the way that you need to in order to really get better on both sides. And I think that's kind of where we're at. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that, because I have something as well that I posted. I should send it to you. And I have all of my clients. I have them focus on, it's never about, like, these aren't clients and not customers. They're partners. We're in relationship. Like, if you're choosing to actually build something with, then we are creating a marriage in many ways. Even if you have thousands and thousands of customers, we're in relationship with each other. And to start reframing the language, then it is really about partnership. You know, because partners, it's different than saying these are my customers, my clients.
Yeah. One last thing. What's the one thing when you're really trying to get someone to understand this new mindset, this new world that we live in, how this new economy works, and how tech can be that leverageable way to scale something, right? Because that's why everybody loves tech. It's subscription based. We change the valuation, blah blah blah. I've been fighting that fight, you know, in the fundraising circles. So as we're having that conversation, how do you get people to understand that the barriers that they thought existed don't exist today? How do you illuminate them to that point where they start to get the aha moment?
That the barriers aren't there anymore?
Yeah.
I think you can also look at what's going on. One of the things I hear often is, like, people get really excited about an idea and then they go do some research, they're on Google and they're like, damn it, somebody's already done this. that is not a reason not to do it,
Amen.
because one, they're educating the market for you, and
Right.
if you do it bigger and better than they do, or if you just have like enough of a relationship, enough of a niche, maybe it's your culture, whatever it is, you could still totally be sustainable.
Yeah.
And I have friends of mine that they have a company. It's called The Foundation. I plug them all the time. I love these guys. And they teach people who don't even have a product idea, don't know how to write a line of code, you name it, how to actually build SaaS-based companies. And they force them to go out and sell it before they even write a line of code. Sounds hard, and so is running out of all your money. So is running out of your investors' money. So being able to go and sell your thing is it might be difficult, but they have now seen, like even in their first class, 10 of those people were already showing $100,000 and up within a year.
Yeah.
And they focus on mindset a lot. But the whole idea is you don't have to have this amazing magic product. You don't have to have a team. You don't have to. It is that the bar has been lowered in many, many ways. So.
I mean, I don't know if I have the balls to sell something that doesn't exist, but I'm certainly in that lean startup mindset. I mean, the amount of money that is spent before we get a feedback loop from a client to tell us how to make these things better. It's just
MVPs are for.
Yes, exactly. I just want to close one story, and this was so illustrating. Maybe you can chime in on the end. You know, I had a great friend, did a technology company. They made a decision they had to get rid of their CIO. They go to the CIO. They have the dinner. They go to the offsite. They know that it's happening. He knows it's happening, and the CIO says, "Well, you know, what is it? Is it I'm not a good entrepreneur." You know, and the guy relents. He says, "No, you're a good entrepreneur." And then he'd stop and he thought about it. He says, "No, you're not a good entrepreneur, but you're a great engineer." And the guy says, "What's the difference?" He says, he goes, an engineer will create something that's brilliant and fight with you tooth and nail on why it's so brilliant. And he says an entrepreneur will create something that he thinks is brilliant and then change the crap out of it until you deem it's brilliant too. And that was that evolution of just that ability to change. And that's really what the lean startup speaks to. You got like 2 seconds just to chime in on that?
I think that's fantastic about the willingness to be open. And what I really think is interesting about that is that, being able to be an entrepreneur is really like, at the end of the day, they talk about the definition of what a startup is just looking for a replicable business model. Once you've found that, then it's like theoretically you're not in startup mode anymore. But that's what it is. It's like constantly iterating, listening to what it is that your partners, not customers, but what is that the market wants, and continually trying and changing it until you found something that is sustainable, that grows, that has margins, and allows you to scale. So
you heard it here on the line. Nicole Casanova, thanks so much.
You're welcome. This is fantastic. Thank you, Tony.